Frank Llyod White for Kids, His Life and Ideas by Kathleen Thorne Thompson. Chapter 1, Growing Up. Anna Lloyd Wright found the perfect gift for her 9-year-old son Frank at a fair in Philadelphia in 1876. Mrs. Wright wanted her son to be an architect, and the beautiful Froebel blocks she bought at the fair would teach her son about architecture. The blocks were invented by Frederick Froebel, the founder of the first kindergarten. He used them to help children understand how big shapes were made from small parts. While playing with the blocks, children learned about geometry, color, and mathematics. Mrs. Wright, a school teacher, was interested in Froebel's ideas and attended lectures to learn more about him. Frank loved his new toy. There were many different things in the package his mother gave him. He found polished maple blocks in the geometric shapes of cubes, rectangles, cylinders, pyramids, cones, and spheres. He found brilliantly colored shiny papers for covering the blocks, and little green spheres and straight sticks for joining the blocks into simple structures. While playing with his blocks, he learned that everything is made from basic geometric shapes. The shapes can be hidden within outer shape of an object, but they are there just the same. Later in his life, he was to say, "The maplewood blocks are in my fingers to this day." Frank's family did not have much money. His father, William Carey Wright, was a powerful speaker and talented musician, but he had trouble earning money to support his family. Frank was a toddler when his father took a job as a minister of a church in Weymouth, Massachusetts. While working in Massachusetts, Mr. Wright found he enjoyed music more than church work. He often stayed up all night playing and composing music on the piano. When Frank was 10 years old, his father gave up his job as a minister and moved the family back to Madison, Wisconsin, where he opened a music school. Frank and his sister, Jane and Maginell, shared Mr. Wright's love of music. The family often gathered together in the evenings to sing and play music. When he was 11 years old, Frank started working on a Lloyd Jones family farm in Wisconsin. The summer work on the farm was so hard that Frank actually counted the days until school began in the fall. After all, even school was better than working on the farm, where he had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, feed the pigs, milk the cows, weed the garden, and help in the fields. A very tired Frank fell asleep immediately after supper. Twice he tried to run away, but both times his uncles found him and brought him back. The uncles reminded Frank that Lloyd Jones' family had a motto, adding tired to tired and then adding it again, which meant to Frank that he had to work until he was tired and then work some more. Work is an adventure that makes strong men and finishes weak ones, they told Frank. Fortunately, there was Sunday, the high point of the week for Frank. On Saturday night, he heated water on the wood-burning stove and took a bath in a small tub. Sunday morning, he put away his dusty, dirty farm clothes, took his city clothes out of the closet, and dressed for church. The large clannish Lloyd Jones family had built their own church, and Uncle Lloyd Jones was the preacher. When the weather was good, the family gathered for a picnic after the service. Frank loved these happy family Sunday festivals. He was free to eat, sing, play, and listen to stories his fathers and uncles told. Life on the farm was not all bad because Frank was close to nature. He loved the low, rolling hills of Wisconsin prairie. He learned the magic of growing things. He saw colors in nature change from one season to the next. He watched seeds sprout and grow into plants. One day, Frank spotted a red-orange tiger lily in the green field. When he became an architect, he signed every drawing with a small red square that always reminded him of the beautiful tiger lily in the green Wisconsin field. Frank felt surprise and delight when he found the simple shapes of Froebel's blocks hidden in nature. Tiny green spheres appeared when he snapped open a long, smooth pea pod. Pulling back the rough husk from an ear of corn exposed a straight rows of square yellow kernels hiding inside. Feathery green carrot tops showed him where he could find plump orange triangular carrots growing underground. His respect for the simple beauty of nature grew with every passing year. Frank learned to see patterns in the freshly tilled soil, in the layering of rocks and the ripples of water, and in the moving clouds. He noticed structures of the trees, plants, and spiderwebs. He studied shapes repeated in insects and animals. He learned to see that nature hides the basic of shapes, the circle, square, and triangle within the outer shape of everything. This was the same lesson he had learned from the Froebel blocks. He never grew tired of it. Later in his life, these lessons would give him the ideas he would use to create his own style of American architecture. By the end of the 5th summer on the farm, when Frank was 16, everyone treated him as an adult. The hard farm work had given Frank self-confidence and the strength he needed to face the misfortune he found when he returned home. Fewer and fewer students wanted to study music with Mr. Wright, and he had to close his music school. Feeling he was a failure, Mr. Wright left home and his family. Of course, Frank was very angry with his father, but later in his life, he could at least be grateful that his father had inspired his love of music. The Wright family was especially short of money after Mr. Wright left, but Mrs. Wright still wanted her son to be an architect. However, when Frank finished high school, there was no architecture schools in the Midwest. Frank's mother saved enough money to send him to the nearby University of Wisconsin for classes in civil engineering, the next best thing to architecture. He found his classes dull, but enjoyed working afternoons in his professor's office, where he was able to work on real engineering problems. The huge dome on the Wisconsin State Capitol building was being rebuilt when Frank was a student. One day, while he was watching, the entire dome collapsed, killing most of the workers. The building contractor was responsible. He had given orders to the workmen to fill the supporting columns with inferior materials. Frank was horrified that this mistake killed so many. He vowed to make every one of his buildings he designed strong and safe. Frank dropped out of school after less than a year's credit. With just $7 in his pocket, he set out to seek his fortune in Chicago.